All right, what's up, guys? Back here on Southeastern 14 with Max Barr. We continue our stroll through the SEC basketball transfer portal. And yes, we are totally playing catch up on a lot of these guys because, as you know, we had a lot going on towards the end of the season. Guys were
Yep.
transferring in and out in the tournaments, and we were covering the tournament mostly. So we're going to catch up on ones like Jacob Cruz to Missouri, which we know happened
Ooh.
several weeks ago. But we said we were going to do a video on every single transfer in SEC basketball, and so we're going to try to go full steam ahead here and catch up on the ones that we have missed to this point, which there are quite a few. But before we get into talking about Jacob Cruz, let's tell you about Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports this season: MLB, golf, NBA, NHL. It's all there. Latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. You can get the latest odds and lines, including the team matchups, player props, and odds for just about every single sport out there. So head on over to Bet Online today on the website, or you can use the mobile device to get in on the action, and BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, Jacob Cruz. Max has not stopped talking about Jacob Cruz since, I don't know, March the whatever, whenever he signed, or yeah, and this guy just all in on a prolific shooter, Jacob Cruz. As you see it there, the announcement from Missouri did make it official. Comes over from UT Martin, the Skyhawks. And boy, what an impressive sort of season he had there. You want to talk about guys that just, I don't want to say basically come out of nowhere, but it's kind of what it is here. I mean, this is a guy who, 2020, 21, played 13 minutes a game, 4.5 points, 21, 22, played 9 games, 11 minutes, 2 points per game, basically 3 points per game. But then, now, 23, 24. 19.1 points per game at UT Martin, averaged 8.2 rebounds per game. He was around top 50 in points per game nationally, top 75 in rebounds. And boy, Max, this is a very interesting pickup for my guy Dennis Gates here, who is on the revenge tour after what last season did to him. And I think this is a great addition to the roster.
Yeah, I love this guy. I love this guy, Blake.
Max
I've
already got him
watched.
first team All SEC.
I love this guy. I've watched his highlight video probably too many times. So good story. 2 years at North Florida. His second year at North Florida, sophomore year, gets injured, doesn't work out. Goes to Daytona State, Division II, just goes berserk there. Comes back to UT Martin, has a fantastic year. He was actually top 10 in the country last year in offensive efficiency. Top 10, top 10 in the country in offensive efficiency. Guy is a offensive weapon. He committed back on the 19th of March, so we are a little bit late here, but we are doing it. I always like to look at who recruited this guy else. Who else wanted this guy? How highly touted was he? We've got teams like Kansas, Gonzaga, UCLA, Auburn. These are top 10 programs that wanted Cruz. Bill Self wanted Cruz. Mark Few wanted Cruz. Okay, so this guy's very good. Graduate. He's at stretch 4. He was first team All OVC and at Daytona State 2 years ago. Was second team All American in the JUCO. So he's got his accolades. Blake, he's a pure shooter. This guy doesn't foul. He's got the look. Passes the eye test. Just kind of exactly what Missouri didn't have this past year with that, what they did have 2 years ago with that high flying offense. I think they can kind of get back to those roots here with Cruz, Blake.
Yeah, I forgot to bring up the Daytona States that I only had my NCAA stats in front of me, but yeah, 19.9 points per game, as you said a couple of years ago. There, that was the transition. So we talk about kind of coming out of
Yep.
nowhere, goes to JUCO, which we know too. We said when Dennis Gates got hired, like this is a guy that has all the connections in JUCO, and so I'm sure you already kind of have your eyeballs on a guy like this. You kind of see sort of the season he had there. Then he goes to UT Martin. And, maybe it's one of those things where, all right, check back in, see how, this guy's going. Boom. Like, he just takes off at UT Martin. So that transition from there. And I just love the fact, I mean, he averaged 8 threes a game that season at Daytona State. And that's where I think this is going to be a huge upside here for him because we talk about Missouri, and it just felt like, we talk about the difference in this past season and the year before. So Dennis
Yeah.
Gates' first season versus second season. They had the offensive capability, they had the shooting and all that to be able to overcome some of those defensive weaknesses. This season, they did not have that. They go, 32% from three. That's 277th nationally. They were just not a great offensive team. And so you go out and get someone who can do a lot of things. But the fact is, he's going to be able to give them a spark, I think, offensively. And as I'm sure we'll touch on, this is a roster that feels like, not going to say it's just going to completely turn things around. They're going to win the SEC title next year. But it does feel like you're going to take a significant step forward based on how this roster has filled out to this point. But with Cruz, I mean, it's 89 threes last year, shoots at 41%. I just think he brings a lot of those things that was one of the key differences between the two teams, that one succeeds, one just completely underachieves to a level that we didn't expect. And I think it's just having guys like this who can come in and provide that spark offensively. We always say guys who up transfer and all that, but man, as you said, Max, you watch the highlights and you see how this guy plays. I think he's going to translate just fine. So,
yep, Blake, you inspired me to pull this up. Look at this over here to the far right, 3-point. Conference only, okay? He's in the Ohio Valley. Second overall in percentage at 43.3% while making 55 threes.
yeah.
That's over 3 threes a game on 43%.
18 conference games, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's ridiculous. And then you move to the left a little bit and you have this FC40, FD40. That's fouls committed per 40 minutes, fouls drawn per 40 minutes. The guy doesn't foul and he just racks up free throws. It's exactly what you want. He's that prototypical stretch 4, 6'8", 215. But the good thing that I like about Cruz is that he can also put the ball on the deck. He can drive and slam. This was the craziest stat I found. I don't know how more people aren't talking about this. Listen to this stat, okay? How many Division I players, Blake, I think I already told you this. Might not have. I don't know. How many Division I players this past season had 600 points, 250 rebounds, and 85 or more threes? There was only 2. One of them was Jacob Cruz. The other one was Creighton's Baylor Shireman. That's it. It's whole country. So, I mean, the guy averaged 25.7 points per game over his last 7 games. Just went crazy. So, I mean, yeah, you got deep range too. 19 made threes deeper than 25 feet. If it's late shot clock and you need to just chuck something up, catch and shoot, throw it to Cruz, you'll have a good chance at it going down. Yeah, I really like what he's going to bring, especially the floor spacing. It's not Missouri didn't have a ton of that, didn't have a ton of capable shooters, but no one that was like, don't let him breathe because he's going to knock it down if he gets an inch. They got that type of guy now.
Something else I like is what else Missouri did well if you compare the two seasons. They got up and down the floor a lot more in 23 than they did 24, and that was just because of the offense and the way it was built. But, it's like, who did Jacob Cruz just play for? He played for Ryan Ritter, which if you've not followed Ryan Ritter's career, go back to Bethune-Cookman, now at UT Martin, has always played one of the highest tempos in the country. And so you want to talk about a guy who can get up and go and transition and all those things. Like, I think that's very important too, because you look at, as we said, once again, if you kind of tie it into the rest of the roster, at least as we see it right now for Missouri, there is undoubtedly, in my opinion, much more offensive upside now when you start to add in some of the people that are going to be on this roster this next season. It does look like there's that potential to play faster, I would say, especially when you got Jacob Cruz added to the mix. So I like that possibility too, and I just like the familiarity he has playing for someone like Ryan Ritter, who, again, kind of encourages that, certainly in the transition and the way they play. And so I think that will benefit him too coming into the SEC, where, as we said, Max, who are the teams that have started to have more success? How have we seen the SEC turn in terms of playing style? You got a lot more teams that are getting up and down the floor. It's not just the half-court offense, slow it down style. You just don't see a lot of that right now in this league. We'll see if maybe it changes this year based on how rosters are built, but I wouldn't expect it. I think you're already seeing a lot of guys joining the mix, and I think coaches have realized, hey, this is how we're going to play, and Cruz certainly fits that that criteria. So
Yeah. Before we wrap up, one last thing. So they fly, they play up and down, and Cruz doesn't come out of the game. I mean, this guy
yeah,
played
he plays.
36 plus
Yeah.
minutes over like every game over like the last 2 months. So if you need a 40 minute guy at the stretch four, you got him. Just the only thing I want to make people understand, if there's one thing to take away from this video, Bill Self, Mark Few, Mick Cronin, Bruce Pearl, Brad Underwood, all wanted this guy, and he's here at Mizzou. So something to be excited about.
Yep, significant addition, I think, for the Dennis Gates comeback tour in 24-25. And as we said, we'll look at the rest of the roster and everyone else kind of as we move forward. But as always, top 5 recruiting class, you bring in a guy like this, you've got some important guys returning, whether from injury or just returning for another season. At least as it stands right now, it does seem like Missouri set to get back on the right track this upcoming season. So we'll have it covered here at Southeastern 14, as we said, doing a video on every single SEC basketball transfer, and we'll talk about them. And, of course, we'll also talk football, baseball as well, so you can check that out here on the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We appreciate you watching all of our stuff here, and we'll talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 14.